Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 228 of the Terminal City FC podcast, part of the Area 51 Sports Network. Josh Ray joined alongside Nathan Derrick, as per usual, talking all things football. So, again, we'll start with the Vancouver Whitecaps. Another day at the office, another win. A solid 2-0 win over New York City FC, despite being outpossessed. But overall, the XG showed it was 334 to 0.63 XG in favor of the Whitecaps. Dominant match, could have been more if not for New York City FC goalkeeper Matt Freese.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because it's one of those games where the analytics and the eye test don't really match up. Everything on paper says that this was an easily handled game. The Whitecaps were in control. Yes, they didn't have possession, but when they had the ball, they were the ones actually dictating and doing everything with it. The eye test was a little bit nervy. You're a little unsure for large parts of this game, and that went with both sides. We can talk particularly about the first half, where there was a number of defensive errors on both sides that led to some pretty inconsistent play. On the Whitecaps side, their back line was a little bit tricky, especially in playing back to Yohei Takioka. A number of times that they were playing back to their goalkeeper, the ball never actually reaching their goalkeeper. Thankfully, Yohei was on in the game and very alert and very aware. He was able to jump in and save those instances and save the blushes of his defenders, at least on two occasions, actually calling out his defenders pretty vehemently, almost in a throwback to some David Ousted days when we used to remember Ousted yelling constantly at his players. It didn't feel as comfortable for a large part of that game as the game ended up, which was kind of surprising when you think about it. These are two very, very high pressing teams, and I think that contributed to it. But it felt like it took the Whitecaps, I would say, a good 40 minutes to get into the awareness that they were playing a team that wasn't going to give them a lot of space.
Played more or less the similar way. And Jesper Sorensen talked about it after the game, saying that this is kind of style of football they don't face often. Yep. But they handled it well. Took them a while to get going, but they handled it well. Brian White could have had like a hat trick if not for Matt Freese. That's why I picked him for MLS Goalkeeper of the Year and why he's a contender to start at the World Cup for the U.S. men's national team.
Yes, absolutely.
So it got started late in the first half. Berhalter's free kick finds Laborda in his office. The back post, of course. Laborda just slots it in.
You got to wonder, why is nobody watching Laborda? There was also another Whitecap player behind Laborda, so that if the center back missed it, there was someone else that could have been able to tap that in as well. Nobody's watching them. Yeah. Everyone has their eye on the ball and not on any of the players on that line. From the angle and the distance of that shot, you know that it's not going to be on net. You know that it's going to be crossed in above the line and going into someone. Why were only half the players being watched? I don't know. I think, again, when we want to talk about defensive lapses, that was one on New York's side.
Yeah, like Laborda was pretty much left alone unmarked. And, the Whitecaps kept pushing throughout the second half. New York, though, they started getting chances on Yohei Takioka, but Takioka came up big. They were not clinical in the final third, especially with their transitions, and shows how much they miss Alonso Martinez.
Yeah.
Because it felt like Maximiliano Morales was doing all the heavy lifting in the attack. But New York weren't clinical, and it took Whitecaps some time to put the game away because there was some nervousness that New York would tie the game. You could feel it in the building.
It felt like one of those games. You just feel everything kind of just get a little bit quiet, and it wasn't out of boredom. There was that nervous edge to it, absolutely.
Yeah, but Bruno Caicedo comes on, and he gets his first assist as a Whitecap, who great move to get around the defender, and then crosses in for Brian White for the diving header, which you don't really see much in modern football nowadays.
No, you don't. Credits to Brian White to get in behind his defender and basically kind of sacrifice his body a little to make that happen. if anyone deserved a goal more than Brian White on that day, I don't know who it was. He had over 1.0 xG, just
1.5,
himself.
like something like that.
Yeah, it was absolutely insane. As far as I know, that puts him on 6 goals MLS on the season.
Yeah,
I think
something like that. Yeah,
he's about second or so in the MLS scoring rates.
last I checked, he was like top 3 in XG.
Yeah,
Might have been number one.
he always is. You remember last year when he was top in XG but hadn't scored a goal yet because he was just getting stymied all the time.
Yeah.
What this does is this puts the Whitecaps on top of the Supporters Shield race. They're now tied on points, I believe, with San Jose, but they also have the same record. Spurs
higher
have
goal difference.
Higher goal difference, yeah. They are benefiting, and it's kind of odd to say, but they are benefiting from not being in Champions Cup right now. Not having to play midweek, that is giving them a lot of additional rest, additional time to bring in the new players, especially those wing players that still need to bed in a little bit. We still need to see a bit more of that cohesiveness, although we did see a little bit better yesterday on the weekend as we did opposed to the weekend previously. It's definitely helping. It was kind of funny because as soon as the Whitecaps bowed out of the Champions Cup, you had some MLS analysts and people that have been around MLS for a while, in particular Matt Doyle, who his first comment after they bowed out of Champions Cup was Whitecaps are winning a Supporter Shield.
Yeah, don't have any midweek games till after the World Cup, unless there's an MLS midweek game in between. But yeah, this is kind of a blessing in disguise for the Whitecaps. Helps guys like Sabali and Caicedo get more integrated. Because the wingers, it's there, but it's not fully there yet, if you know what I mean.
It's
still some lack of cohesion.
I'm still waiting for the likes of Ryan Gauld to be healthy, to put pressure on not only that left-hand side, but also in that number 10 position, which right now obviously is going to be always Thomas Müller. I want to see pressure on all of those positions, including your DPs, right? They need to be aware that there are fully capable players right behind them, right? Obviously, when Gauld comes back, that's going to be a big shakeup for how do you get Müller and Gauld on the pitch at the same time. We saw flashes of it last season, but obviously,
Gauld mainly came off the bench.
Exactly. He wasn't able to play the full time. And a lot of times, you're getting a like-for-like change between him and Müller. We know Gauld can play off that left-hand side. And we know that once you put him on, someone like him and Müller, it'll basically just be float wherever else you need to go, right?
Him, Müller, White, which it's crazy to think the Whitecaps are top of the league if they haven't had their full squad together.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny that when you think of those 3 players that you just mentioned, there haven't been really that many occasions going back to last August when Müller came in, when all 3 of those players were on the pitch for an extended period of time.
Yeah, it was only like a few minutes off when Gauld came off
the
bench. And of course, Ranko Veselinovic and Sam Edekubi are on their way back from injuries.
Huge benefits.
Especially that back line with Halbuni and Priso out.
Yes, and we know that Halbuni is working on his way back. He's still got a little bit of time. Priso, it looks like it could be about a month and a half.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's why I didn't include him in my World Cup prediction squad because it feels like very unlikely, barring a miracle, that be ready in
right
time.
Now. Yeah.
Which really is a shame. Yeah, and speaking of the back line, like in that first half, the Whitecaps were playing with fire with the back passes to Yoey Tako because New York City were pressing, and I think they weren't aware of it or they didn't realize the extent how much New York City presses. But thankfully, nothing too disastrous happened, but very careless at the back from.
That's what I was talking about, where it felt like it almost took the Whitecaps about 40 minutes in that first half to become aware of exactly what they were playing against. And the times where I said Takioka, it was almost like seeing flashes of David Osted where he was yelling at his back line. There was at least 2 occasions where he got pretty irate at some of those back passes. And you know what? Absolutely, he should be. It's nice when you have a goalkeeper like Yohei, who maybe he's not getting a lot of work in shot stopping in that first half. He really didn't have any shots. I don't think there was only 2 in the half, and none of them on target.
Yeah,
That
New York
didn't
didn't get
come
a
until the
shot on
second
target
half.
to like the 60th minute or something
But
like that.
he was aware and alert. He wasn't checking out of the game. He was constantly there. And I think that's credit to him being such a good player with his feet, is that he is constantly a part of that game because they are using him. They
are using him as part of the buildup.
The fault with that is when you almost rely on it too much. And I think that might have almost been the case in this match. Thankfully, he was awake.
Takaoka, one of the best in the league when it comes to ball playing goalkeepers. And I guess that goes to show how, the calmness of Priso at the back is missed, because he is very calm moving the ball with his feet, either to Takaoka or forward. But they'll clean that up, hopefully, for the next game. But overall, a good job against New York City's press in possession. Jesper Sorensen talked about how they had to adapt throughout the game, and they did a very good job of doing it, which, of course, I agree. And they earned the 3 points, and could have been like 5-0 if Matt Freese didn't stand on his head, because if the Whitecaps did not win this game, Matt Freese would have been easily man of the match for New York City FC. So the Whitecaps are back in action on a rare Friday night game.
Yeah. Sporting Kansas City is who they're going to be up against. SKC not doing that well. Only one win.
They are one of the worst teams in MLS. And SKC, last night, I believe, or 2 nights ago, they got knocked out of the U.S. Open Cup by a team from Colorado called Colorado Springs. Let me look it up here. They're a USL team. Colorado Springs Switchbacks, which includes former Whitecap forward Levante Johnson, who did score in that game.
There you go.
So, yeah, 3-0. This wasn't a close game, by the way. SKC lost 3-0 to Colorado Springs Switchbacks.
Kansas City, yeah, like I said, only one win in the game, a -10 goal difference, sitting only on 4 points, very bottom of the Western Conference, very close to the bottom of the league. We're going to talk about this later about coaches on the hot seat, but Wiki is definitely one of those guys. I would say probably in the top 2 right now for next game could be your last.
Yeah, especially if the Whitecaps just dismantle SKC on Friday night. SKC's only win of the season was a 2-1 win at LA Galaxy.
Now, they still have dangerous players. Djordjevic signed as
a
DP there. We know all what he can do.
Yeah, well, it feels like he's the one that's carrying right now. Or
right now?
All season.
Yeah. And again, a player like Djordjevic, you want to mitigate him. You just mitigate the service.
Yeah, and this is not the same SKC of like 4 or 5, 6 years ago, where they were among the top teams in the West. They should also mention that there's Canadian international Zorhan Bazong, who is trying to fight for a place at the World Cup.
Yeah, haven't seen him much
really
in the squad as of late, or at least not used.
Yeah, he has been called upon over the past year, but he's an outsider looking in for the World Cup. Yeah, Sporting Kansas
I think on
City,
that right-hand side, Seger has probably supplanted him.
Yeah. It's just been down bad for them all season. It has been for quite a number of years. I don't think they've made the playoffs since like 2021, I believe, when they faced the Whitecaps. And yeah, just looking at how many goals they've given up. 17 goals against, most in the Western Conference, and they've scored just 7.
Yeah, the only team that's given up more goals than them in the league
is Orlando.
And that's
who somehow got a 1-1 draw over the weekend.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes it just works out.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. This is one the Whitecaps
gotta win.
Should
not win,
right? Like it's you keep doing exactly what you're doing. You're playing a very different team than New York, but this team's leaky. and not just leaky. Like it's
They are
it's a
very,
sieve,
very
the holes
leaky.
poking in it.
Well, you got to contain Jovic. That's the big key. Just
I
don't
don't
give him
feel
service.
that's much of a problem. Jovic, to his credit, he's got over half the team's goals. He's got 4 of their 7 goals this season so far. But you stop him, you stop the team. Right?
Yeah,
That's it.
pretty much, because it just feels like they rely on him way too much.
Well, if he's not putting the ball in the net, no one else is.
Yeah.
I think the other 3 goals in the team are actually split between 3 players. He is the only player on the team that has multiple
goals, which makes sense given how poor SKC are. And this is a team that's coming in rattled from losing to Colorado Springs Switchbacks.
No, yeah. And I mean, you got to understand there's probably I haven't seen the lineup of that game, US Open Cup. It's, not something that we normally pay much attention to. North of the border.
Can't really watch it here in Canada.
Yeah, but that's a pretty damning result. Squad rotation or no squad rotation.
They're probably, I'm going to take a look what kind of lineup they had, because I get it's rotated, but you can't lose to a team below you in a cup competition, because that's just embarrassing. Remember the Whitecaps losing to like Pacific and Cavalry? No, I can't find the lineup. That's what it feels like for.
And not only that, but I'm just looking at the analytics. Not only did the Switchbacks win that game, but they dominated in terms of shots, passing, all over the place. It was roughly even. Let's just see. Yeah, they played with a 4-4-2. Jojovic was on, but yeah, nothing's happening.
Yeah, I guess this game where they just didn't show up, it seems like.
Well, Jojovic had a couple of shots on target, but
yeah, if he's not scoring, nobody else is.
Yeah, he really didn't do a whole heck of a lot. Being that it's a cup game, the analytics don't really watch everything, so I can't see in terms of like.
Yeah, I mean, for SKC,
the shots were, but yeah, this looks like exactly what you had said earlier. This looked like a fairly simple game for the Switchbacks.
Yeah, and Whitecaps have a chance to increase the lead on top of the Western Conference and the Supporter Shield race. It did help that Portland beat LAFC last weekend, as we were watching before the Whitecaps game, in the dying minutes of that game. So Whitecaps, have a chance at the Supporter Shield. And I should also mention that it's good to have Andres Kubis back in the lineup. Him and Berhalter look good against New York City FC.
You see the one stat that the Whitecaps released, and actually I think it was Michael McCall of AFTN that mentioned it in the post-match press conference. There hasn't been a single goal against the Whitecaps in any competition this season so far when Andres Kubis is on the pitch.
Let's hope they keep that trend going.
Yeah,
against a team that is very leaky at the back and just relies on one player.
Again, I go back to last season where, yes, there was 2 instances where Kubis fell asleep
in the finals.
2
an
entire season. And yes, they were big games. I hate to say it, they were big games. This guy is one of the best, if not the best, defensive midfielder
in the league. He doesn't get credit because he's a defensive midfielder.
I know. I hate that. I wish defenders in general got more props, but
yeah, at least Tristan Blackman, he's getting a lot of props now. MLS Defender of the Year. He's liking some strange, funny posts on Instagram, by the way.
I don't do
like memes and stuff. He's a funny guy.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, you like a post about being like a teddy bear at work or something like that. I'm like, this is the reigning MLS Defender of the Year. Okay. He likes
you're supposed to be a bit more crunching in your tackles, huh?
Yeah, he's crunching in his tackles, but he's laid back off the pitch. Good to know.
There you go.
We'll wrap up with the Whitecaps here because for those who weren't on social media yesterday, the Vancouver mayor, Ken Simon, is, I believe this is a re-election ploy. He has, talked about wanting to bring an MLB franchise to Vancouver. Well, that sounds nice, but we got to worry about our own teams that are in the city, particularly the Whitecaps, who are at risk of leaving. And given their whole stadium situation.
Who's your owner?
Exactly. Who's the owner?
If you have no owner, this is dead in the water. I'm sorry, but if you have a guy in your back pocket that's going to put up for a Major League Baseball team, billions of dollars.
Yeah, it's
Baseball is
gonna
not
be
cheap.
billions. We're going
Like,
to build
no
a stadium.
sport out there. Who's your owner? If you have no owner, shut up.
Yeah, no plan for a stadium. No, BC Place can't be used because of the scoreboard. The old BC Place, yes, but not the
The
current
old one, not the new one. It's not set up for it anymore. That
the old
is
one was built
done
for
and dusted
baseball.
a decade and a half ago.
Unless there's an owner who plans to just renovate BC Place again and make it more modern for Major League Baseball. And best case scenario for this, the Whitecaps get their soccer specific stadium that will join them, but that's a pipe dream.
Do you know what this is? You're absolutely right. This is an election,
a re-election boy,
boost because we have the elections coming up later on. This is Doug McCallum in Surrey, who promised last election the Canal
and the 60,000 seat stadium
for hockey,
yeah,
which doesn't exist. You can't build a 60,000 seat stadium
for the farm team and the Canucks.
Yeah,
but the Canucks own their own.
I'm sorry, but this isn't even sounds nice. This is just ludicrous.
Yeah, maybe in 50 years when, life is different. I don't know.
If you want, first of all, I agree with you 100%. Worry about saving the teams that you have in your city first. And then if you want to bring in someone new, look at the facilities you already have and figure out what professional sports would fit in them. You've got a hockey stadium. Great. What else also fits in there? Basketball.
But NBA is a pipe dream given how much the league wants for expansion fees, like $7 billion.
Yeah.
Maybe we should focus on also getting an actual hockey team.
Look at the WNBA.
That they could use the Coliseum and share it with the Golden Knights.
Honestly,
that's more plausible.
You think of like how the support that the Golden Knights have. You're telling me you wouldn't have similar support for a WNBA team?
I'm sure they'll be there, but
it would be huge.
But for the sake of the Vancouver Whitecaps and try to, get that soccer-specific stadium, get the shovels in the ground. They have time's ticking on the MOU. It's until the end of this year.
And I hate to say it, but when you look at that MOU and you realize that there is also an election happening before that MOU expires, that's another big problem as well.
Right. Good on pointing that up. And also they need a better deal on BC Place and new ownership. So dream later. I mean, it's nice to dream, but prioritize the teams in the city first. Because, again, it would be a crying shame if the Whitecaps leave and they're having the most successful seasons era since they came into MLS.
Yeah. Speaking of teams that are in a little bit of turmoil, CF Montreal fired their head coach, Marco Donadel.
Right after losing, a few hours after losing to Philadelphia, the worst team in the league.
Yeah. Well, now Montreal is tied for worst team in the league. I think they only have 3 points on the season.
One win, yeah.
Yeah, Montreal is dead last in the league right now after being tied with Philadelphia on points, but going now to goal difference. Montreal now has the dubious honor of being the only MLS team in history to fire head coaches within the first 10 games of a season in back-to-back seasons. They have a coaching merry-go-round that goes back, I can't even begin to say how long.
Since they came into MLS, when Jesse Marsh was their first.
And don't get me wrong, Donadel probably wasn't the best fit, but I don't know any coach going into Montreal who would be. This is, again, a Saputo problem.
I mean, again, if they care more about Bologna, why don't they sell Montreal? Make some profits and go away.
From what I've heard from fans, they don't care about Bologna much either. I feel the Saputos love the idea of ownership. They don't love the operation that comes with it.
Yeah. And Montreal has not had a head coach that's lasted for more than 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Marsh only lasted there 1 year. Wilfred Nancy, like 2 years. Thierry Henry, though he wasn't fired, he just left because of COVID and family concerns. Wasn't there long. Biello, who's now the Canadian men's assistant head coach, he was there for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
So some pretty big names were in Montreal. And remember, Nazi left because of his beef with Saputo.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing
And
is,
Martin did too.
we also have to remember the other big problem in Montreal, and for this shouldn't be a problem. This really shouldn't be, but it is specifically for CF Montreal, is the fact that you have FC Supra
who won their
in
first
the
game, by the
CPL.
way.
If they keep going and keep doing what they're doing, if they end up having a good first season, how much support bleeds over to them because people are just fed up with CF Montreal?
Exactly. Like, oh, why should I care about the MLS team? They're not doing well. They're.
I understand you bleed the colors of your team, but when your team is run this way for this long, do you really have a club anymore?
Yeah, like if the owners don't care about the fans, why should the fans care about the club? Basically,
Yeah,
it
is something I think I really worry about, and then you've got to wonder like what happens. Like, does it? I still think out of any club in MLS, and I'm including the Whitecaps in this, I think out of any club in the MLS, Montreal is the one that is in the most dangerous position of leaving Montreal. Of leaving their
Montreal's
city.
a good sports market, and it would be a shame to lose MLS.
It would, absolutely.
There.
But they need owners that actually care.
Yeah, they were like dead last in revenue last year. Whitecaps were second last.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that Montreal has only like one DP right now. They don't even spend money on DPs. They just signed them for free.
Montreal hasn't spent any money on players. I was reading an article about this. They haven't spent any money on players going back to about 2014. Any players they brought in have either been free contracts or they've been money from transfers. They haven't actually gone out and spent above and beyond.
Yeah,
they're the only club that hasn't.
Gone are the days where they bring in Drogba and Piatti.
No, right?
And all that. Where they bring excitement to Montreal. Now, who's the biggest name they signed the last 5 years? Victor Wanyama?
Yeah.
I mean...
And the thing is it doesn't have... Montreal is such a unique... they're in such a unique position because of the culture of the province of Quebec. Because of being French and being unique within a league of, everyone else, that they can appeal to a much different market. You look at Supra. Supra is doing it right now.
Their priority is developing French-Canadian players and having a mainly French-Canadian team.
And I'm not saying that Montreal has to go that route to that extreme. They don't need to be the Bilbao, of MLS.
Yeah.
Whitecaps apparently tried that a decade ago. We all know how that worked out. But they could appeal to other French-speaking countries around the world, which there are a ton. French is one of the
most common languages in the world.
I think it's one of the top 5 languages.
It is. I think it's behind English and Spanish
Yeah. So I don't understand. I don't understand what their plan is other than who's cheap.
Yeah, I have no plan. They don't care.
I'm going to be saying that a lot this show. I don't understand the plan because we talked about that last week with Portland. We're talking about it with Montreal. Just wait till we get to Spurs.
Yeah, well, more on that later. I don't even know what saves Montreal at this point, other than the Saputo's selling the club. So
not the only team that had a coaching change.
This one just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, Javier Nascimento has left Inter Miami. Only 4 or 5 months off of winning MLS Cup. Now, he's saying that he left. It wasn't a firing, that it was done for personal reasons. But I'm sorry, what is going on in Miami? Because you got a guy who just left after winning MLS Cup not even half a year ago. This is right on the heels of Tata Martinez leaving the club after having the best regular season in MLS history and then decides to leave.
The first round.
But what's going on in Montreal in that you're taking coaches that are doing phenomenal things
and then they leave
and they want out?
Yeah. I like what's going on behind closed doors.
1 is whatever. 2 is concerning. If it happens a 3rd time, that's a trend.
Yeah. Personal reasons.
Which, who knows what that could be? It could be
maybe
family wants to move
David
back
Beckham did not get aligned. Maybe he and Messi did not get along. Because Mascherano was brought in, he was one of Messi's former teammates.
I know, right? So you should think that's not the problem. And you know what? There were a lot of there was a lot of criticism of Mascherano last year in that he is just a placeholder for other people, but he had to do some work with a squad that isn't fully balanced and is aging out, right? And we're really starting to see that this year compared to last year. Yeah. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder: is Inter Miami Italy win the World Cup and then never show up again?
Yeah, I mean, is like the standards that high in Inter Miami that after a couple draws the coach is out? What's the deal here? Because they had a good thing.
I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to fully find out exactly what the reasons were.
Probably not for a while.
Decides to publish his book, but we'll have to wait and see.
Guillermo Hoyos is could be interim manager. According to Tom Bogert, he led the players in training yesterday. I don't know who Miami brings in. Do they bring in Xavi, another one of Messi's guys?
You're not going to get the usual MLS fare of
no. You're not getting like
available.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's going to be someone from outside.
I'm probably going to think Xavi.
And it's going to be someone that has to have the stamp of approval from Messi.
From Lionel Messi, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miami have drawn their last 2 games, which were the first 2 games in their new stadium. No, new stadium. That's what's literally called.
Yeah. I'm even going to go as far as to say that even if you looked at former MLS managers that are available, I don't even think Nancy would go there. Or I don't think he would fit because that team is too old for him to play.
I'm not too sure about if Nancy or Jim Curtin would want to go there.
Curtin might, just because, he's more embedded into like the whole kind of American soccer culture. I don't know. Miami is a tough one to figure out because there's such an aberration in how they operate. Right?
And I'm just willing to bet it's going to be someone from outside.
It will be, yeah. Hands down.
Yeah. I'm taking.
Who else is on the hot seat? We already talked about Wiki in Kansas City. We talked about Carnell with Philadelphia. We've talked about Neville, but Neville might have saved himself for a little bit with that 2-1 win over LAFC.
Oh, yeah. A little bit.
Yeah. Vanny might have saved himself with the Galaxy with their last win, although they did. We'll find out tonight, I believe. They play their second match in Champions Cup
against
quarterfinals.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Wiki, if Kansas City loses against the Whitecaps, I think is 1 out very, very soon.
If they get absolutely spanked, which is very
Carmel
possible.
With Philadelphia, I feel bad for him, but they haven't really given him a lot of help there. Yeah.
They lost so many guys and did barely anything to replace
They haven't replaced anyone.
Yeah. Ben Olsen is also a name that I've been hearing.
Yeah.
Houston have had their struggles.
Yeah. Also, Austin as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams that are in that kind of only 3 or 4 points so far this season. And at this point, if any one of those teams loses one match, that's it, right? That could be it.
Yeah.
In total, you've got 5 teams because the other one up there, and this is weird because we just talked about Tata Martinez, is Atlanta.
Yeah, they're not doing well.
So I don't know. I don't see him on the hot seat yet because he's just back in. Also, he has the history with Atlanta. I think they're going to give him more leeway. I don't think they're going to give him Greg Vanny, LA Galaxy last season leeway, but he'll get some.
Yeah, I think he gets a little bit more leeway unless things really just go off the rails even more.
Absolutely.
For Atlanta United. So, the Canadian women's national team played in this FIFA series over the past few days, I believe in Brazil. 2 games, 2 wins for them. A 4-0 win over Zambia.
Yeah.
And then a 3-1 win despite being down to 10, which I don't think it was a red card at all, a yellow, over South Korea.
The Canadian women are starting to figure out where the net is.
Yeah.
Over the past couple of international breaks, it took a long time for Casey Stoney to really kind of figure this team out. But we're starting to see it. And that win against South Korea, that's a big win. That's a bit of a statement win because, like you said, going down one player, but also a team like South Korea, this isn't a team that you're going to just steamroll over. So I think you got to put credit where credit is due.
Yeah,
and also
Canada looked way
Vanessa
more.
Shields. What a player.
I mean, Canada had struggled scoring, but Gilles hasn't. Excuse me.
Well, that's that. Definitely not the person I'm going to have on my bingo card to get goals game in, game out. But wow,
she's just so good in the air.
Yeah.
The first game against Zambia, Khadijah Buchanan suited up for the first time in like over a year.
I think so.
Due to her injury. But Nichelle Prince and Simi Awuju each got 2 goals. Just dominance all around in Canada. Zambia just like a team that was just put together the night before because they were giving Canada so much space. But the second game against South Korea, as we mentioned, the statement win, Gilles with 2, despite being down to 10. Again, that was not a red to me. South Korea did score on the free kick. So credit to them for that free kick, though.
Yeah.
It
was a tidy structured window.
Yeah, Evelyn Viens, got a shout out to her. She shined up top. And despite all that, without possession, they did well despite being down a woman.
Also, want to talk about is Regan and how well she's come into this. Seeing NSL players jump up and take
former NSL player.
You're right. Former. She's with is it Colorado.
Yeah, the new Colorado NWSL.
That's right.
She's left.
Keep forgetting that. But it was nice to see her jump up and become quite important in that squad.
Yeah, Janine Sonas too. Both sides of the ball, showing off her creativity. It was hot there. She played the full 90 minutes as a fullback.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good on the women, and it gives confidence, heading into future windows. Like, okay, we can score goals. We are a resilient team. Things are starting to click. Let's build on this for the future.
You know what? I think there was I don't say there was a hot seat, but I think the seat was a little bit warm for Stoney in the fact that it took a long time to really kind of click with this team. And I guess you have to say credit to the program for sticking with her and giving her the time to figure this out while also bringing in a host of brand new players.
Yeah, many of
because you got to think women's soccer in Canada was undergoing a big transition at the same time she's coming in. And she talked about it last year a little bit when she was talking about the overall player pool and how that needs to grow and how it will grow over time with the NSL. We're starting to see the very beginnings of that, the seeds of that coming through. And I think that she recognizes what this moment is and her place within it. And the team is now starting to respond.
Yeah, and it's good to see from the Canadian women, great win against the Koreans.
Yeah.
So back to the Men's World Cup. So Toronto's Fan Fest was billed as a free and exclusive space, but now it looks like they're willing to charge people because it's FIFA.
Yeah, so it looks like the Toronto City Council has decided that they're going to start charging people admission to go into the World Cup Fan Fest that will be there. It'll be a $10 general admission, VIP tickets anywhere into up to $300.
VIP tickets for a fan fest.
I don't know. Does that mean you get to go to a fenced off section to the side? Who knows? I don't know. But Toronto aren't the only ones.
Yeah, we talked about Foxborough and Philadelphia and other places.
Yep. Again, this World Cup, it's going to be the worst one.
Yeah, and we're the ones hosting it. And that's not all. According to The Athletic, New Jersey Transit is currently planning to charge more than $100 US for return train tickets from New York's Penn Station to MetLife Stadium.
This is a
And that
public
train
utility.
ticket ordinarily costs $12.90 US for a return ticket.
I'm sorry, but train infrastructure is a public utility. Like, yes, and it's the states, so everything is privatized because that's what the states
That's the way
does.
it is.
But this is just messing with people's mobility just to get around their own city. I don't. This actually, I think, is even more disgusting than charging for a fan zone.
Yeah, like, how come $12.90 for a return ticket that's normal, but during the World Cup you're charging over $100?
It's a gouge.
Yeah, it's not. You're just price gouging and rage baiting people.
Yeah,
like, you're driving people away. Like, even for an ordinary New Yorker who wants to watch a World Cup game at MetLife, that's a slap in the face.
Yeah, this is.
If anything, they should.
This entire World Cup is just showing, like, it's not even veiledly hidden anymore. This is just showing the absolute greed of the organization and the sport as a whole.
Yeah, FIFA and the whole.
It's not like it wasn't really hidden to begin with. We all knew it was there, but it's so blatant in this World Cup that it's.
They're not even trying to hide it. Could you imagine if the SkyTrain was charged like $50 or something like that for a return?
Yeah, say the Canucks make in another world, they start making a playoff push towards the final, and the SkyTrain down to Yaletown or City Center decides, charging you $50 or the stadium, right?
Yeah, at least Vancouver's transit is not like they're not overcharging people. They're like, all right, same fees for everybody.
Yeah. Not only that, but they add more trains on those days.
Yeah. New Jersey Transit, like, what are they thinking here?
They're thinking that this is a way to make money. That's it.
Yeah, a way to make even more money and insult to not just visiting fans, but your local fans.
It's the American way.
It's the American way. So, all right, over to Europe. What's the point?
Hey, thank you for doing the good work.
Yeah, we did the good work to give Man City a better chance at the title, as Arsenal bottled it, or are on the point of bottling it again, as they lost 2-1 to Bournemouth at home. What's the point anymore with this Chelsea team? Good first half, I guess.
Don't even cry to me.
Cucurella did score, but he was offside. Nice pass from Joao Pedro. Uriel Hato had a good game on both ends of the pitch. Pedro Neto looked good down the left wing. Other than that, it was terrible. Second half, I don't know what Liam Raciner said to them in the dressing room, but they just stopped playing. Maybe they realized, we need to lose to make sure Arsenal doesn't get the title. And they just stopped playing. They had the chance to sign Ryan Cherky for like 3 years. And then he gets 2 assists against Chelsea. He assists Nico O'Reilly. And then to make things even worse, they had a chance to sign this player last summer. Mark Gay scores, the former Chelsea Academy product. And then later, Moises Caicedo gives the ball away and Doku scores. Liam Raciner ruined Moises Caicedo. Just hasn't been the same player since he came in. Caicedo's lost
joining Vancouver anyway, so.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's why they switched Bruno and Moises.
That's right.
So I didn't know Moises was a very talented winger as well.
Yeah, who knew?
So the briefs, again, the PR briefs say that Liam Raciner will keep his job even though they won't make Champions League. They see him as a long-term manager. But of course, they said that about Graham Potter. They said that about Maurizio Pochettino. And they said that about Enzo Maresca. And both are no longer Chelsea coach.
Yeah.
So I don't even believe the briefs anymore. It's just PR nonsense. And of course, the Chelsea ownership, Bluecoat, think we're all dumb. And they think that everybody will fall for it. And now there are briefs saying that Chelsea are going to have a crazy summer spend no matter what happens. And they're going to target experienced players for once. Woo. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't want another Tosin situation where you just sign a guy for free from the bargain bin. Um, Chelsea are going to look for a center back, not Marco Senesi, because they want a physical center back. So that's out of the question. Probably would have been great for Bluco because he would have been signed for free. But one name that Chelsea are looking at is at their favorite shopping place, Brighton. And this is a player that I actually thinking, you know what? Bring this guy in because he's good, he's experienced, and he is what they need. Dutch international Jan Paul van Henke, or Van Heck, plays for Brighton. He's been there for a few years now. He's a rising star in the Dutch setup. He is physical, great ball carrying, and he's pretty much a modern archetype of a physical center back. So that'd be my number one target. Him or Jared Braithwaite, Premier League experience. And I don't know what else Chelsea are looking for. We're looking for another left winger, obviously. They're not happy with Garnacho. Ooh, surprise, surprise. You sign a guy with one of the worst dribbling rates in the Premier League. This is how he turns out. Also looking at Bournemouth midfielder Alex Scott, which is okay. Not really a needle mover, though. And we'll see where Chelsea go when it comes to signings in the summer. But they face Man United next week. Harry Maguire and Lisandro Martinez will miss that game due to suspension because Lisandro Martinez pulled Calvert-Lewin's hair against Leeds. And there will be a big protest from Chelsea fans and Strasbourg fans outside Stamford Bridge for the game to protest Bluco. If you are going to that game, show up, be loud, be proud, chant against Bluco, send a message. If I were there, I'd be front and center because hashtag Bluco out. They've ruined the soul of this club. And I hope they continue chanting Bluco out or whatever throughout the game against Manchester United. Must win for top 5 implications. If they don't, I guess Champions League is looking very unlikely. It already is. But must win against United. And then they have Brighton the week after. So Tottenham lose again in De Zerbi's first match and are in the relegation zone, and this team just sucks at passing and everything else.
You know what? We thought we were going to see something at least a little bit different from De Zerbi. He had 10 uninterrupted days heading into this match because, you know, it was the international break and Spurs didn't have anything they were playing for. 10 days to do something, and we got a lineup with 3 number 9s.
Yeah.
Milani, Richarlison, and Dominic Solanke. All lined up together. Richarlison on the left. I'm sorry, he's not a winger. Mulani is a 9 out and out. I don't know what this lineup was. A lot of people were questioning it. And
that's me playing FIFA at 12 years old, lining up
the question isn't just put more strikers on and hope for the best.
Yeah.
You actually
have to get me FIFA way.
I don't understand it. So, yes, the goal for Sunderland was a big deflection and it happened. But again, a comedy of errors. Romero is out for the season after getting shoved into Kinski, his own goalkeeper. He's out with injury and he's done. There was no creativity in this team. So there's a really, really good article that was put out by Ryan O'Hanlon of ESPN. And the whole talk is about, like, in order to get goals, you need to create chances. Chances are measured in XG. Teams that have higher XG obviously are likely to have better chances. But with Spurs, it's a weird Moneyball situation in that they tried to prioritize one thing to the detriment of all others. They've got one of the fastest teams in the league. Yeah. They can't pass.
Exactly.
This is a team that forgot to ask the question of, but can they pass? You take a look at the top 5 players in passing that's been put out by Gradient Sports. Again, this is like, you know, American soccer analytics, right? But it's another one for other places around the world. And they do individual optics on players and whatnot, and it's used by scouts. The best passer in Tottenham is Christian Romero. He's ranked 19th in the league.
A defender is your best passer.
Mickey Van de Ven is second at 87th. And then after that, you got Udogie at 152nd, Danso at 167th. Now, those top four I just mentioned are all defenders.
Yep.
Mohamed Kudus at 186th.
Guy can't stay healthy.
You have only 5 guys there, and 2, both center backs, are in the top 100. You forgot to ask the question, can they pass? Tottenham has a bunch of speed demons that can't move the ball. And that's
I
why
hate those type of players.
Right?
Who are just speed and nothing else.
And the problem is that's the detriment. You can't win a football match if you don't pass. What was it? They said the average number of pass attempts in a Premier League game is 450. 450 passes in a game. And you got guys that can't do that skill. Well, of course you're not going to get anything done.
Exactly.
So if you get a chance, check out this article. It's really, really good in how it breaks it down in kind of just like the actual fundamentals. Ryan O'Hanlon, ESPN, absolutely phenomenal read. But you kind of look at this and you're like, of course, it's simple, stupid. Other than that, Tottenham might have made their first signing, but it is contingent on staying in the Premier League. They've been looking at Andy Robertson of Liverpool, who is going to be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. It looks like a deal is very, very close to being done on a free transfer. Again, Spurs got to stay in the Premier League in order for this to happen. Now, Robertson is a player that Spurs were trying to sign back in January, just to offer a little bit of stability. This is also back when Udogie was still injured. You know, he's still working his way back from injury as it is anyway. But getting some experience on this team, not the worst idea in the world. Is Robertson the guy, or has the game kind of passed him by? We'll have to wait and see. But if he's a guy that's going to kind of just stay back and almost kind of take over that leadership role in the back line from, say, like a Ben Davies, who I'm pretty sure this is Ben Davies' last season, more than likely move into a coaching role of some sort, I'm okay with it. Other than that, Johan Lang, who is the sporting director for Spurs, it looks like he's done as well. And that can't happen soon enough.
I wish Chelsea can get rid of their sporting directors too, but
yeah,
not happening.
Yeah.
All 4 clubs are in shambles. Now I'm reading a brief that Liam Sr. had more involvement in recruitment meetings than Enzo Maresca. So you backed the LinkedIn bro, but not back the guy who won you the Club World Cup. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Moving on to the rest of the world. Interesting story here coming out of the Bundesliga.
Big story here.
Union Berlin, not the biggest team in the Bundesliga, but still, you're talking about one of the top well-known clubs in Germany. They have broken the glass ceiling for top 5 leagues in Europe by hiring their first, and I believe right now she is interim. The interim title is there, but she is the first female head coach of a top 5 men's league club in Europe. She actually she kind of broke the glass ceiling last year when she was appointed as an assistant manager, but she's now got the head coach responsibilities and has been taking to the pitch with training as they get ready for their next match.
Yep. She replaces, for now, Stefan Baumgart, who, by the way, was a candidate for Whitecaps head coach a year and a half ago, but he chose to go to Union Berlin. And yeah, Etta is the first ever woman to manage a top 5 European side. And it says, following the season, she will assume the role of head coach of the Union Berlin women's side.
No, Union Berlin isn't doing all that bad. They're 11th in the Bundesliga right now, and they're only 1 point out of a top 10. Like they're the definition of a mid-table club right now. So, she has the tools at her disposal to kind of really, really show. Now, obviously, she's not the first woman to coach in the men's game. There was the woman who was coaching in Hong Kong who actually won the Hong Kong League. There was the woman who I believe was coaching in the 2nd division of France for a very, very short spell. It has happened, but this is the first time top
top
league,
five.
top 5 European league. So
Yeah, even as an interim, this is historic.
and the thing is this has to be like any other interim. You show what you can do over the next 3-4 matches, 5 matches. That interim title can very easily get knocked off.
Yeah, and of course she faced some cretins online regarding this, but the club defended her, and people were like, "Oh, DEI hired her because she's a woman." Well, she's brought in as intern because she's part of the organization, and
she's in the organization. She was already there. She understands the players. She is a part of that system.
It's not like they just randomly
she was
brought her
the
in.
Yeah, like this is what happens. This is where you get interim coaches from.
Yeah,
now it's
usually
up to her to kind of take it by the reins. But no, everything else is just stupid.
Yeah. Champions League yesterday. Liverpool are out of the Champions League and they're going to go trophyless. Well, they are trophyless this season.
Yep.
The hands of PSG, despite all that chances, Ousmane Dembele made them pay. I guess that's what they get for Arne Slot playing a low block against PSG in the first leg.
Not surprised. We already had PSG in the final.
Yeah. It just feels like Arne Slot's time as Liverpool manager is ticking.
It does.
Probably they're going to wait until the end of the season, see if they qualify for Champions League or not. Because I think no Champions League, he's gone. And Barcelona tried to come back against Atletico Madrid, but that failed. And I don't know, Barcelona and UCL knockout games get a red card.
Yeah, they're pretty livid about that.
Eric, I don't know about, I'm like 50-50 on that one.
Yeah, but it kind of looks like Barcelona's now out for blood over that. Like to the point where they
apparently Rafinha just blasted the official to the media.
I don't know.
Yamal and Ferran Torres got Barcelona like they tied the tie like 25 minutes in, but all Atletico Madrid needed was Ademola Lookman in the 31st minute, and then Atletico Madrid played Atletico Madrid ball and stunned Barcelona out.
Yeah, it deserved.
Yeah, Atletico Madrid are in the semifinals of the Champions League for the first time in since 2016, I believe.
Wow.
When they did make it to the final against Real Madrid.
Hey, was Diego Simeone still around back then?
Yep, he's been around.
He was that one enduring manager. So
yeah, and good on Atletico Madrid for getting the job done. PSG look like a formidable force, and today in the Champions League, Bayern Munich will look to finish off Real Madrid as they are up 2-1 on aggregate as they play at the Allianz, and Arsenal are facing Sporting.
There you go.
It'd be funny if Sporting do the job for all of us. It'd be very funny. We need it, but I don't know if it'll happen.
Yeah, that might be a little bit
too
far.
But you never know with Arsenal.
No, you don't.
So that concludes this week's episode. Excuse me. Tell us what we're doing right. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Follow me on Twitter, Joshua800, Nathan at Enduric, podcast at Terminal City FC. We are on Blue Sky, YouTube, Instagram, and all that. Posting some clips there. Check out all our writing for Area 51 Sports Network and the rest of the articles on hockey and other stuff. So we'll be back next week talking all things Whitecaps. 2 more home games for the Whitecaps at BC Place before they're kicked out due to the World Cup.
Epic trip.
So we'll both be at these games. And
this game, actually, this week also, just for everyone that pays attention, will be on Friday.
Yep. Rare Friday night game, as I said earlier. And yeah, that's just going to be weird.
Yeah.
At least I can spend my weekend watching other MLS games and other football. We'll talk all things European football as both of us continue to suffer. And we'll see, do Chelsea make Champions League? Can Spurs survive? We'll talk about all that. So that concludes this week's episode. Peace out.
Take care.